Hello there, how y'all doing? Well, it's been a funny old week or so, hasn't it? We've had the JFK files released, which we'll get to in a minute. We've had various YouTube creators and citizen journalists screaming from the rooftops that it's all Israel's fault, Israel's behind it. Well, we'll get to that in a minute. Again, we've had Trump backing Lindsey Graham, Alex Jones stating something that I've been saying for, well, since all that happened in Israel a couple of years ago. The entire Israel situation, all of it, is a carefully engineered psyop. We'll get to that in a minute. There's also Robert Kennedy Jr. that's been blackmailed. Now that story I haven't looked into fully yet. I've been waiting until something actually comes out. Everyone seems to be jumping on the bandwagon about it. I'm not really waiting for any news. But everyone's, well, let's call them the Israel fan club. The Israel fan club's take on it is exactly what you'd expect. Israel are blackmailing him. We'll get to that in a minute. What a bullshit. So, JFK files. As many of you know, if you've watched my previous videos, I've been downloading them and going through them in pretty bite-sized chunks. And that's because I wanted to absorb them, which is something I've noticed no one else has been doing. One of the things I pointed out in my last video was that the very first file of those JFK files is it's the annex for it. It basically breaks down how those files will be released when they are taken out or when they are passed around the various other intelligence organisations. And it also points out the correct redactions, which bits need to be redacted. And like I pointed out last time, yes, they mention Israel, but they also mention UK intelligence, Canadian intelligence, Canadian Royal Mounted Police, the Irish intelligence, that's Southern Ireland, Republic of Ireland, the Arabic Republic of Egypt, yeah, which doesn't exist anymore. It's just Egypt, obviously, and also the Russians, the Cubans, blah blah blah. So to immediately jump onto Israel with every mention because they were redacted is ridiculous, stupid, disingenuous, wrong. No other intel agency has been mentioned, right, in any of the other files. The involvement with the UK and Australia, by the way, because there was a memorandum requesting the JFK files be suppressed by a prominent Australian intelligence officer whose name I've completely forgotten, and you'll probably be seeing it in the background here anyway. So there's a lot of moving parts. A lot of people turn around and saying they're a bit of a non-issue, a bit of a non-event. And that's because they're looking for the who. And you'll never find that. You'll never find that. You'll never find the exact person that actually killed JFK. It's impossible. They'll never tell you. They likely didn't know who he was. He just hired them. My guess, it was either Italian, Jewish or Irish mob. Due to the fact that Jews, Irish and Italians are all mentioned in that first annex file. You also would have noticed that I've been posting a lot of videos that are interviews with a guy called Colonel Fletcher Prouty. And I've been doing that because this guy, although he couldn't speak completely freely, he spoke as much as he could. And this is because the guy used to be the Special Operations Commander for the Pentagon from 1960 to 1963 under Kennedy. Before that, he was the Assistant to the Joint Chiefs of Staff at the Pentagon. He was also the presidential pilot of Air Force One, or the precursor for Air Force One, I think. It was a presidential plane anyway. And his breakdown of how the Vietnam War started, the Bay of Pigs started, and the Cold War started, all near the end of World War II. All of them, the setups and everything, were all designed by the British and American intelligence, the OSS and MI6, that are now SAS. So if you hear me mention SAS, that's who it is basically. This involved a lot of covert actions, a lot of setup, moving people around, especially in Vietnam. There was 20 years of just 5 or 6 CIA or MI6 agents going around North Vietnam and doing terrorist actions. Gladio style. The deception industrial complex is his favourite occupation. Been doing this a long time, and he just confirmed everything. Now, I actually run into his interviews a long time ago, and I completely forgotten about them until I started watching, until I started reading the JFK files, and then all of a sudden, I remember that guy. A lot of the stuff he says is enlightening. I'll leave the links in the description anyway below, and I may show a clip of one of them at the end of this. You need to bear in mind that these interviews were conducted in the late 80s and early 90s, because not long after, I think it's the latest one that I posted, I don't think he was alive much longer after that. But he talks about Western intelligence, that meaning basically CIA and MI6, created their own version of what was known as Murder Incorporated, and this was the Jewish mob's hit team, hitmen for hire. There was a whole squad of them. So naturally, the Italian mafia had to copy, and so did the Irish mob. But he talks about something else called Operation Mongoose, and this was again a hit team created to assassinate Castro. And he said, "Do you think it when they failed doing that and they eventually stopped? Do you think they disbanded, broke up?" Of course not. That's stupid. They just went by an assumed name. I've explained anyway why blaming just one single nation state is ridiculous. because of the amount of moving parts that are necessary before and after. It has to be a very highly coordinated and dedicated multinational team. Always has been, always will be. And this is why the deception industrial complex has been so successful. Since the end of World War II at least. But especially so over the past 20, 30 years. Which brings me to something else. And something that really surprised me. I wasn't expecting this at all whilst I was reading the JFK files. And this was the mention of a very powerful, very prominent Swede that was murdered in Helsinki around the time that Oswald was there. And the Russians wanted him dead, basically, because anyone that was involved with the Nazis, they wanted killed off, basically. And this certain family member, called Raoul, was finding fake IDs and travel papers for very, very high level Nazis, as well as some very wealthy Jewish families that were still there in Germany and Poland and Sweden. The name was amazing because it's the only upper echelon elite family that I've ever seen mentioned in these files. It was Wallenburg. It was Raoul Wallenburg. And when I saw that, it slapped me across the face. Because Wallenburg was doing that, was getting these papers for the CIA, for Operation Paperclip. He was helping them with Paperclip, smuggling them out through Sweden. So he was under their protection, and they failed to protect him. Now the Wallenburg family, if you don't know who they are one of the two most powerful bloodline lineages in the whole of Europe, and fourth in line for the actual ascended throne, which is occupied by the Pisces, obviously, shortly followed by the Orsinis and then Assassin. Wallenbergs and Rusafjelsatse have tendrils going into every single European elite lineage, Merovingian lineage and Black nobility lineage in all of Europe. Their bloodline is split between Norway and Sweden, with both the same line, both royal lines. They're also part of the Norwegian royal family, so they are royalty as Rus. But they also have intermarried with the Ejo Koskinen from Finland and Byron from Finland and Kreitz in Switzerland, and naturally the Orsini, Farnese and Savoy. But like I said, also Wallenberg, most definitely Wallenberg. In fact, those two families are extremely closely linked, and they run the show in Europe. All this focus on Rothschild is wrong. I've said this countless times. They're also not Jewish, by the way, yeah? Never have been. That's something else that all these anti-Israeli people point out. Yeah, they're all Jewish at the top. No, they're not. There's one Jewish family that are in the actual upper echelon That's the Sassoons. And they're not exactly, not technically not even Jewish either. They're Iranian. Well, from the Iranian. So, to point the finger at the Rothschilds and say, oh, look, they're the most powerful family. No, they're not. They haven't been for a long time. They lost pretty much all the wealth. Like the Rockefellers and the Warburgs and the Astors and the Waltons and the blah, blah, blah and the blah, blah, blah. Yeah. They all lost the money. As soon as Paisa took over, as soon as Louis Cass took over, that was it. They were fucked, basically, skint. Became trustees just like the rest of us. Just with a few more perks. So, with that in mind, the Western Intel have dropped the ball, and the Wallenburg's favourite son has been killed under their watch when he was supposedly under their protection. These people won't let something like that slide. And once they learn of who made the mistake, they want retribution. And that's another reason why I think they were mentioned in there. Because it's the only time I've ever seen a prominent family like that mentioned anywhere in an assassination file. So I thought that was something interesting anyway. Alex Jones talking about Israel being a psyop. Yes, it is. Anything that generates or causes you to have an extremely highly emotional reaction is deliberately done that way, engineered that way, to steer you in a direction that they want. You lose all critical thought, all ability to critically think, and your focus is immediately trained at that target. The most effective psyops are the ones that involve a high amount of death of a certain amount of people, certain race, ethnicity, call it what you want. This is why that area of the world was chosen, because it can generate these psyops perpetually and keep the chaos moving, keep people's attention aimed at the Jews in Israel. You'd be surprised to know that most of the political class in Israel are ex-Nazis or students of Nazis, protégés. Not even Jewish. Yeah, Netanyahu isn't. It's from Romania, I think. Not Jew. Nope. Sorry. And this is what Alex Jones was pointing out that made me go, oh, I've been saying this for fucking months. A couple of years now even. They knew exactly how to split everybody down the middle. Exactly which line to do the cut. And it was Israel. Just when we were unifying, at the end of 2023, end of September, there were protests being geared that involved every race, religion, creed, income gap, you name it. We were all coming together. And then that one incident, and everyone split and fell right into their side. their allocated side, and remain there ever since. Anyone that points this out, of course, is a Jew. Or you're a Hamas supporter, which is another thing. I've explained Hamas plenty of times before till I'm blue in the face. No one listens. Look up the military definition of a psychological operation if you don't believe me, and then apply it to the Israel situation, and you'll see exactly what I've just said. You've all been played massively, and the reason why I'm suppressed so much on all social media, like many others, because I'm not the only one saying this, is because we've been trying to tell people this, because it's fact. The past few videos I've put on TikTok, every single one of them have been up for review, because I've been criticising both sides and pointing the finger at the deception industrial complex, rightly so. Yet, anyone posts a video on Israel, blaming Israel, it's fine. Blaming Gaza, it's fine. It's to perpetuate that split, that constant antagonism against each other, and distract you from everything else going on. And this Robert Kennedy Jr. stuff is no different. It's not Israel that's doing it. They may have some sort of involvement, may have got some of the pictures, but it's Western intel. And you get people like Ian Carroll, Candace Owens. I like them, yeah. Whitney Webb is the same. All of them have their focus trained on one target, without even bothering to consider who put them there in the first place, who set them up. The model that they followed, the people who trained them, all Israeli intelligence. So UK, MI6. CIA follows the MI6 model because it's the most robust and solid infrastructure, intelligence infrastructure in the world. Which is why Europe was so desperate to get it from us. That kind of event causes people who have that already in their minds to become myopic, blinkered. You're looking for that bogeyman when you should be looking closer to home, especially if you live in the West. They've learnt this craft from the masters of this craft. The intel Psy-war game has been a British staple for centuries. And in the cyber age, we've perfected it. But we also have 5 eyes now. So we have a bigger range. Just like Israel is being used as the excuse, the Cold War was during the 80s, 70s and 80s. The threat of nuclear war. And all of that was devised and set up expertly, perfectly, in 1943. Colonel Prouty even says in that second interview that I posted, that when you had a window of time after the Nazis were driven out of Eastern Europe, they landed in Turkey, and to pick up a lot of American POWs that had been released. And along with these POWs were about 4 or 5 Romanian intel experts, intel agents that worked for the Nazis. And they were being picked up and taken to the US to tell the US and the UK all about the Russians. This is how the games are played. You all need to get your heads out your asses.